horse drifted alarmingly in the betting was, fenced in the morning, continued to drift. It was late on the exchanges to lose. It was something you'd see in a Dick Francis novel, Charles Buttons.
The ground is soft. It's
heavy.
It's soft on times.
It's heavy.
Okay.
Hello, very warm welcome. Yes, it's the Barsters Inquiry Sunday sermon time. What better way to chew the fat of this week with my two favourite cohorts, partners in crime on the Sabbath, John Lang and Lord Malvo Chris. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening, all.
Hello, everyone.
So, an eventful week, John. We'll start off pretty quickly onto the sort of review side of things before we get over to the juicy stuff sent in by yourself. Listeners, we thank you for these questions, and we'll certainly get through as many as we can throughout the show. But before that, of course, it is, of course, review time for the week that was in terms of the racing front. So, John, without wasting loads of time going through what we feel is a festival that shouldn't be 4 days, in all fairness. Did it used to be 5 at one point?
It was always 4. It always started on the Wednesday and finished on Ledger Day.
Correct, and now they've changed it obviously to Sunday, which is probably a better idea than what they were doing. But that's been reflected by Gates through Doncaster this week, which of course are up, surprisingly. I never asked our paddock guru, Adam Norman, to see if he got half a chicken past the Gestapo this week, John. But there's been quite a few people scathing also of Doncaster. I think it was a bookmaker I saw this morning that said there was no advertising from Doncaster on their website where you could buy a ticket online or that displayed the prices if you paid and walked up on the day. Quite strange, isn't it, for the 4th day of a festival?
Well, I didn't actually look, so I don't know the ins and outs of it. But, you would have thought that was a strange decision if that was the case.
Yeah, it's not York, so that's the problem there. Right, without further ado then, John, let's keep it sort of trim in terms of reviews.
Yes, let's.
The Chris is for that as well. The group ones we'll focus on, because obviously plenty of action this weekend. And I think that's more important. And I think we need to sort of like finalise it with where we're at this point in time with potentially next season's classics. Let's start away on what we saw. So yesterday we had to go for our first Group 1 event, which of course was at Doncaster, if you like, before going over to Ireland, and it was the St Leger. One of your questions on the thread was, is the Leger a dead man walking? Bit sexist, John.
Well, a dead person walking, yeah. Well, it's named after Anthony. So let's keep the Leger as a bloke for now. It is though, isn't it?
Yeah, to a degree. But Chris Connolly counters it, and he said, loads of races in the UK are pretty dead. For all the negative stuff said about the big operations, I'd say it's a good job Aidan O'Brien supports the Leger. Was a cracking finish, battled out by 2 very good horses too. That's a fair point, isn't it? If Aidan O'Brien just went, that's it, we're done. Appleby, for example, didn't have a runner. Again, another classic where Appleby, no runner. Yeah. What would we have seen? We might have seen the Frenchman jumping up and down as some way comes home late to take it with 5 runners, and then we'd truly be saying it'd be dead with no Aidan O'Brien support. So anyway, I'm coming to you for your take on it. How did you see the Leger?
I think it was probably par as regards class-wise now. I think this is what we've got as regards Leger winners and Leger place horses. I think we're looking at 110 gets you in the frame. I think for regards the future racing, I think we've probably got the right winner because we had the horse with maybe the most potential. I didn't particularly think he needed a Leger in his life at this particular stage of his career, but anyway, he's gone and won it. I think if they swapped them round after the steward's inquiry, Colmar would have had a double result because then the catalogue could have said first past the post Leger and winner of Leger, so that they got two results. And it's always good when you're standing jump sayers, isn't it? I don't know. I mean, I don't know what you can do to alter the race, really. It is what it is. We sort of stay in 3-year-olds Coolmore seemed to have the hop on everybody else as regards staying 3-year-olds. You know, I mean, he's going to end his career winning about 25 Queen's Razzies and 20 of these, isn't he?
Yeah. How I saw it was that I think Jan Bruegel is their future cup horse to take over from Kyprios. I don't see him going to stud. I don't see him like retiring early. I think he keeps going and going. If you look at his pedigree, he's close relative, in fact, a full brother to Dawn Rising, which contests Queen Alexandra's, and obviously got a lot more ability than Dawn Rising. The only thing that concerns me with him, last 2 races, John, I don't know if this is still babyish or what, but he gets to the front and he won't do any more. The last 2 runs, he just won't. You saw it at Goodwood, and we sort of blamed the track a bit, said, "Oh, he didn't handle it, wasn't good," that kind of thing around Goodwood. But he did exactly the same for me against Illinois. It looked like he was just going to pump, just walk past him.
Yeah.
And then he just decided to just stay there. Ed sort of cocked a little
At
bit.
this stage, I'm inclined to give him the benefit of the doubt and say it's just immaturity. And he's gawping about a bit and what have you. It's not ideal. He wouldn't really want to say it at this stage, when we're 4 runs in. But next year he'll tell us an awful lot more. And the way they're campaigning well as well, I would imagine they'll start off somewhere like the Yorkshire Cup.
It wouldn't surprise me if they might even think like Coronation Cup as well, that kind of thing. Kyprios would probably have speed for a Coronation Cup, but as he proved today in the Irish Ledger, which we'll get onto later. But to be fair to Jan Bruegel, I don't think he needs this trip and beyond right now. I think he's one of them that when he gets to 5 and 6, he might end up preferring going 2 mile and further. But I do think he's their cup horse. I think that's what they've got in mind for him. So, and I don't think there's a lot else to take out the Ledger. I think what do they do with Illinois now? He's not top class. He's not got much gears. I know that's harsh because obviously you're 2 lengths behind the arc favourite Sursey, you're a neck behind Los Angeles, and you're a neck second in the St. Ledger. That would seem a very harsh assessment from myself.
Look at Ruddy in the Doncaster Cup next year against Coltrane and Gregory.
And bore you to tears.
Yes.
Right, so enough at boring stuff. Let's go on to Leopardstown yesterday, which, of course, had a bit of pizzazz. It certainly upset James Knight. The Royal Bahrain Irish Champion Stakes wasn't shown on British television, i.e. ITV, shown on Racing TV. Do you reckon that was contractual, John?
Well, James Knight said in his thread that they had the rights to show it. So,
right, okay.
Apparently, it was a commercial decision. If that's the case, I found it very bizarre, really, because I thought it was by some distance the race of the weekend.
Truly mental, isn't it? It's absolutely mental if that's the case. I don't know what ITV are playing at there.
I honestly assumed they wouldn't have the right to show it.
That's my first assessment. I'm thinking, well, if they're not showing any from Ireland, I just assumed the horse racing Ireland might have priced themselves out of it and said, right, this is what we want for ITV to show it. I don't know. It seems really odd.
I think this is something we need to look into because this could be yet another James Knight massive controversy, couldn't it?
James Knight is a contrarian. I class him now as a contrarian. He loves a contrarian view.
He lives for the controversy. There's no question.
Yeah, he loves to zig when you should be zagging, and he zags when you should be zigging. And he's normally wrong. But I don't think he is this time, if that's the case, of course. Kevin Duffy's been on. He said, John Joe, give a shout on your pod to Shane Foley for his ride on Green Impact yesterday. He made a show of Ryan Moore by aggressively grabbing the slipstream of Bernard Shaw in the back straight. Look at the video. It was the winning of the race. Now, before you answer, John, I'll say Kevin Duffy, I think, is quite a shrewd judge. He's a good listener, often disagrees with me. That's no bad thing. But he wants, obviously, your take. What do you think to the ride on that, or the race itself?
Yeah, it was all right. I mean, he was, wasn't he? Race, I don't know whether he can go overboard on it, but yeah, he made the right move at the right time, I thought, yeah. Yeah, Shane, go Shane, Team Shane, well.
I don't think Delacroix, for example, had the pace anyway. I just thought he looked another one of them. That's going to be at Leisure next year, isn't it?
Well, it was a bit of a tail
It
flash
is,
when
isn't
he
it?
got a crack round the arse as well. I didn't know whether I fancied him much after that, but we'll see.
Right, the matron, before we come on to the big one, cracking filly, the winner. I love how she puts racers to bed. It's almost, I'm not going to put her in the same category. I think it's wrong of me to do so, but she does remind me of a bit of me-esque. She'll come there and then the quickening that she can produce, that's it, race done, finished. At the line, she's sort of like floundering a bit as she's used that turn of pace, but she does remind me of that filly a bit. How she can just like quicken up like that.
She's surprised the shit out of me this year,
Yeah,
to be
I
fair.
think you should stay.
Well, I mean, it kind of started by surprising the shit out of me in America. Because, in all honesty, the last thing I thought she wanted was a mile round Santa Anita last November. She ran an absolute blinding race. She's run crackers ever since. The mile seems to have been the making of her. And to me, she didn't look as though she wanted that.
To be honest, it's fooled every one of us, and obviously you get a lot of people that'll never admit they're wrong. Me, John, Jack, I think all of us felt that she wasn't going to get. No way would she get the Ascot race, for example. We thought not a stiff mile, not the. I know it's not the stiffest of miles round the bend, but still, it's an uphill finish, and we just thought,
Jamal, you need to say out, like even after the Guineas, I thought, no, can't have her. And she produced a county staying performance, and then Newmarket after that was a cakewalk, and this was just terrific. So hats off to her.
7 from 11, and of course, if you're enjoying this filly, I don't think they'll be retiring her. They tend not to retire fillies. They usually keep them going until they board 4 or 5 at least, because there's plenty of pots to be had. A filly that's got a turn of foot like she has can literally just turn up most places and just win. So a fabulous filly with a fabulous constitution to boot. So we come on to the Irish champion, John. If you'd have stopped the VT about 2 furlongs out, you'd have said economics as goose.
Yeah, then the bottle kicked in, didn't it? I mean, he's shown he's got plenty of ability in the races preceding this. Now he's shown he's got plenty of bottle.
Yeah.
I thought it was a funny race. It didn't pan out anything like I expected it to. Whether it was a tactical decision from Colmar, I mean, I don't know why you'd run Hans Anderson and then just sit him at the back in a race like that, because he's never going to improve his position. And that left Luxembourg, Coronation Cup winner as a fucking pacemaker. Wow. And Los Angeles was also set far enough back for us with solid 12 furlong form. I think if that was how it was intended, I think Colmar got the tactics badly wrong.
And our French expert, Jacques, he likes the 3rd and the 4th here more than the French form today in the French trials, just for listeners, in terms of like anti-purse thing. I'm surprised to see Serzi as fav after Longchamp today when you've got a trial like that from Los Angeles. Absolutely, you could argue that was possibly one of the best trials.
Well, he ran a better race than he would have if they'd ridden him how I thought they'd ride him. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I thought he was there to sucker Tom into going too soon. But he wasn't. He was there on his own merits, and he's run a cracker. So you would imagine he'll go to Paris with a large chance, really.
I was surprised to see the SBA Ghostwriter at 11-2. We sort of mentioned it on the pod at 12s. But still, I was very encouraged with how he shaped, beaten 2 lengths by the winner, which, again, economics is showing some top-class form. But when you consider that the Troy thumped this one over 4 lengths.
Both times, I don't think we're quite saying Ghostwriter at his best, because I think both times he's done plenty in the jockey's hands. But if that's how he's going to run every time, well, that is him at his best, isn't it?
If he's not going to drop it, yeah.
Yeah, you know, is King's Cut coming up short in these type of races unless he's uncomfortably the best horse?
Yeah, I personally don't think he's got it at that level. I don't. He's a decent jockey. There's nothing wrong with the lad, but you could see when Saeed Sahel just went no.
Yeah.
And Stoute was getting more to ride Desert Crown in workouts. You were even questioning that, saying, well, why is he bringing Ryan over and then having to put
Yeah.
King's Coat on the day? Doesn't make
That
any
was it.
sense.
No, it didn't. And then it
So,
turned out it was
yeah.
going to put him on the day, was he? So.
Finishing the comparison off then on the Irish Champ, if Economics met City of Troy in a normally well-run race, how do you price up City of Troy versus Economics?
I think you'd have to have City of Troy's favourite on what we've seen so far.
Yep.
This race is going to be run over 10 furlongs, I'm assuming.
Yep, 10 furlong race. Good ground.
At this stage, I would expect City of Troy to beat him.
I actually priced it up to date and I went 4-9 Troy, 2-1 Economics because I need a bit of edge. Can't go 9-4, 100% book turnover. So that's how I bet. About 4-9, 2-1.
Do you not think that Economics is improving? I was well impressed. I mean, it's had, it hasn't really been sort of, what's the word? It hasn't really showed his hand. I think there's more to come with that. I wouldn't be so bullish, to be honest with you. But then again, I'm the worst judge in the world. But I don't know. I'd have him closer than that, to be honest with you. I really do. I was really impressed with that. I thought it looked great.
Yeah, I think some people would. That's my assessment in that, and I'm using a crude form line that if Ghostwriter was beat 2 lengths by Economics,
yeah,
and City of Troy beat it, what were it 4.75 lengths, 4 3/4 lengths. In essence, if you use the crude form line and say they've all run their races on that day,
yes,
then it's 2.75 lengths superior on that form line. So it's a bit crude, and I agree. You can't just look at a race like that. But that's where I stand.
I just thought Economics looked green. I don't know whether that's I know you said that whether it's got a little not kink etc. But if you take a charitable view, I just think it's still learning. I was massively impressed. I think this could be something really special. But I don't know. It'd be interesting to see where they go with it and what they do next. Because I thought that was a great run, to be honest.
I'll tell you one thing, Chris. I was impressed with these battling qualities. Bearing in mind, he's not faced that sort of company at the moment.
No.
Up until the race, he'd taken on a race at York. He was impressive at Deauville, but he beat one of Brian Meehan's.
Yes,
he's a good horse, but not a top class horse.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, then has to race against the Premier Group 1 types.
Yep.
To do that and to battle back, I thought was the constitution's there. So it'd be a fascinating encounter. I'd love to see it, but we won't see it because obviously the lads have got other ideas. But I just thought it'd be fun to just do a potential mythical match. What do you think, listeners? Is it Economics or is it City of Troy in a mythical match? Or are we not bothered? I don't know. Anyway, John, I noticed a comment from you the other day. I was out and about, but I saw you say that Holly on Trushan had dropped her hands down the neck. Am I right? I'm reading this right?
Yes, I was very impressed with her.
Is she a listener?
Clearly not.
You said too high. Is it Struthers? Has Struthers told her?
I'd like to think somebody has. But I thought he settled much better for her. And she seemed a lot more relaxed riding him as well. But I did notice the hands were down on the withers, and I don't think you could have described him as pulling it at her or anything like that. She was still keen, but I think that was a step in the right direction.
It's on to Sunday then. Of course, today's action, which we saw predominantly from the Curragh as Doncaster's 4th day, a bit of a write-off with the legends shit and all that lot. So we saw the Group 1 Moyglaire won by Lake Victoria. Very impressive fashion. I like this filly physically a lot. I think she's got more about her. And possibly, John, are we seeing the first creaking signs in Bedtime Story in terms of early season 2-year-old form?
Certainly looking that way, isn't it, after that effort today? You'd have to have concerns.
Did you get a look at them in the paddock?
No, I didn't. During the race, she never impressed me how she was moving in the race. She was keen enough, and I never really liked the position she had her neck in, and she's got a bit to prove now. I'd be inclined to rough her off as well. I don't think I'd be wanting to run her anymore this year. I think she's had plenty.
Aidan tends to be quite harder on his fillies, though. Have you noticed?
Keeps going, doesn't he? I mean, they like proven durability in the mares, don't they? You know, I mean,
Yeah.
and if they fall by the wayside, so be it. You know, but they're the ones that get the best coverings, the real durable mares.
That's a fifth run now in 3 months. I think we're probably, like you say, OTT. Just to digress, because we did get a racing question here on John Quill, and you did answer it on Twitter, but I thought this would be interesting for listeners, where Jason Wally, I believed, said regarding John Quill, that there was a big thing on ITV, I wasn't watching, where Ed Chamberlain said it didn't sit right with him, this big late drift. Francesca, I don't know, I didn't see the coverage, but basically he said this horse laid very heavily late, but you come up with the answer on Twitter, so I'd like to get your answer for the pod.
I could understand people hitting pink because his manner pre-race was absolutely dreadful. If there are people round paddock watching, if you like, and relaying it back to clients, which we know that all these people, Ken Peterson, etc., they all have clients that they get onto. They would get stuck in there. I mean, for a start, he was underpriced anyway. He was priced up on the hype that, to make the Stoute first time out winner, you never get them and all the rest of it. ITV had the narrative going because they love a story that he announced he's retiring and he's going to have a winner on the telly, and then all of a sudden starts drifting like a barge, misbehaving in the paddock, and goes to post like he's got two legs tied together. That all adds up to people getting stuck in and laying him. You know, I mean, it was no surprise to me he ran like shit.
There was a massive Twitter sort of backlash on it as well. I checked Twitter and people going berserk saying this is not a good look for racing, it's bent, this and the other.
The horse was coming out 14 days after a debut where he got knocked ass over tit trying to get a run. You know, he's probably got himself a bit spoked, and then he's gone back to the racecourse and it's spoked him up again. It's no biggie to me.
Completely agree with you there. Like in terms of if that's what you saw, then that's good enough for me, mate. In terms of that. So coming back to the racing again today, the Bar One Flying Five won by Bradsell. Anything on that, John?
Yeah, sprinters are getting as boring as the stairs, aren't they? Really. You know, I mean, expected to win, believing was the danger. Whoop-de-doo, you know, everybody's happy. Where was the first Irish horse on? Was he about seventh?
Isn't this a victory for Davis?
Davis just wins these, doesn't he? I mean, it's just...
Nick Davis. I mean, obviously, he said this for Yonks before the press have caught on to this, and he said you need to back Irish stayers against the British stayers and British sprinters against the Irish. The British have trained the first six home, John.
Yeah, it's no surprise, is it? I mean, whenever I say a sprint in Ireland, I just look for an English trained horse, really. And vice versa, when there's a staying race in this country. It is what it is, I'm afraid.
Ireland can't train sprinters. The Vincent O'Brien National Stakes, a trainer, John, that you did hold in very high regard, of course, back in the day, was won by Scorthy champ Henry Matisse, looking like the horse really we thought he was, in that we don't think he's all that. I don't think any of us do. What was your take on that?
Probably Seagulls 11 tells us where the farm is.
Yeah. The fact there was money for Seagulls, massive money for Seagulls 11 as well. It was well backed.
They probably didn't think they had a lot to beat, and they weren't far wrong. You know, I don't think this was a great national stakes myself.
A bad one. It was a time that was 1.3 seconds slower than the Moidler.
Henry Matisse didn't look as though he had a lot of bottle to me either, because he come through there as though it was going to be job done. He couldn't finish the job off. So I wasn't overly impressed at all. I think we might see him in the middle park or something after this, because I don't think Gordon will want to go to bed on that.
So it brings us on now to what we're thinking for next year. And via Patreon, there's been a couple of articles regarding the line in winter. Sort of 7-8 to 1 now, John. This could be the proper Guineas horse next year, could it not? I mean, this seems quite big on what we're seeing in all the trial races. Would you agree?
If Aiden's got one, I think it's that.
Yeah.
I don't think we're too struck on any of the others. I mean, Aftermath's going to want further. No question in my mind about that. I wouldn't like to see him in the Guineas. These others that have run this weekend, I couldn't really have on my mind.
But the fact that the line in winter is a See the Stars, and See the Stars don't really have like many great 2-year-olds, and they just seem to thrive at 3 and beyond. This has got to be mega promising, hasn't it, for the line in winter? I mean, surely now, if this won a Dewhurst or wherever they go next, I know they've talked about the sales race, but they must be thinking now, well, we're going to have to go for Dewhurst, because what else do you do?
You got nothing else for the Dewhurst.
Not really. No. The first time you see Aiden turn up in a Dewhurst with nothing other than that. To me, that's their one. And if that wins the Dewhurst, it's probably going to be what? 5-2, 9-4 favourite for next year's Guineas?
Are we talking to listeners into having a dip in the anti-post market?
Yeah, 7 or 8 to 1. I think we've got to do it, haven't we? Got to do it.
It's only going to get shorter.
Yeah, if we've got a champion next year, that's the one.
We'll be dead by then. What fucking worrying about that? We'll be brown bread by.
We're all skint dead. Affordability checks. We're all fucked by then. You're totally right, Chris. What are we talking about here? Going for anti-post, and I'm not even going to do the Irish St. Ledger. That's boring. Kyprios won that. Let's move on to John's questions. But before we do that, John, let's talk about the person that you portioned part of your life to. Sir Michael Stoute this week announcing his retirement. I'm not going to press you too much about the life and times because it's private. And John's done a great article today on Patreon. That's how he likes it. He doesn't want it out in the public abode. So what I'm going to ask you, John, in your time there, right, you mentioned about 3 horses that you thought were Stoute's best. Listeners will love this because I love your insight into the 3 of them. We're going to talk about Zilzal first. When did you first knew that Zilzal were going to be like, were a serious...
Physically, and what he could do physically was just electric. You don't see horses work like he could work. You know, he would treat good horses with contempt, you know. But it was the work that the lads that looked after him did that kept him on the right track, you know. It was he could have gone either way. But keeping him calm was key, you know.
So before the debut at Leicester, when he made his debut in the maiden there, what was the confidence like in the yard?
Well, he was regarded as a bit of a crackpot, so he weren't entirely sure he was going to go to the races and not flip his lid, you know. And when he was supposed to free sweater and everything, but we knew he was very, he was shaped like a very good horse, you know. But I think he only won off joint favourite with one of Henry Cecil's Belholm, I think it was.
Did you bet him?
Yeah, I had a few quid on, yeah.
So finished off with Zilzal, like why he's one of your favourites, if you will. Tell me about the run up to the Jersey.
Well, basically, he did a piece of work with Shardy that left everybody thinking Shardy was a sick horse, and then Shardy went and won the SJP.
Yeah.
At Ascot on the Tuesday, and Zilzal was running on the Wednesday, so it was a case of decide how much you want to win, really. It was only even money.
You said to me off air, if you'd copied that, you'd had to go home.
I was walking up, yeah. It took me 6 weeks to get home.
So Zilzal, amazing memories with that one, which weren't mentioned in the Racing Post 10, which yourself, Rishi Prasad, Nick Luck pointed out. The second one of interest, which I found particularly interesting, was Sharif Dancer, which you said you think this was, it probably won the best Irish derby ever run.
It was a hell of an Irish derby. I mean, you had Carleen that won the French derby, Tenosor that won the English derby, subsequently won the King George. Carleen went on and fought like a Comanche to win an international at York. I don't know what there was not to like about the race, and to be fair, he absolutely pissed up, you know. And then he was going to go on and run at York, though there was a bit of rain about, and I think the Arabs were just looking for an excuse to put the lid on him, to be honest, because he was reckoned to be that valuable then. I don't think they wanted him ever to run again after that. It was a shame, you know. I mean, given what some Eichel could do with all their horses, like we're saying, them crack on. You know, I mean, the progress from getting beaten handicap at Sandown at the start of the season to winning that in July was astonishing.
Finally, one that, again, I think is close to your heart in terms of, I think you've described it to me in the past as one of the best workhorses you've probably seen. Freemason on the Heath is King's Best.
Yeah, I think Kieran Fallon put it in a nutshell. He was talking about a piece of work that the horse did against a horse called Little Rock before the Derby. He was being prepared for the Derby, and he was about 3 lengths behind Little Rock, 3 furlongs down, and he came up sides, and then Kieran pressed the button from the furlong pole, and he probably beat him by about 90 yards.
Wow.
Unbelievable piece of work. He just absolutely pulverised him. I mean, he was a decent little horse, you know. Even that particular derby, Sindar and Saki, I was pretty confident he'd have won that.
Wow.
And of course, he went wrong in the Irish derby. But there was a feeling that his head was starting to go a bit, and it wouldn't have been the biggest shock because he absolutely blew the Dewhurst because he went berserk under Gary Stevens as a 2-year-old. When Kieran didn't really know him all that well, he hit the front toe soon on him in the Craven, and he hung half across the track with him. But once he got to know him, there was no suggestion of anything like that. But you're always just waiting for the one broken shell there that puts them back on the funny stuff, isn't it, you know?
Yeah, honestly, you're dealing with thoroughbreds, and it is at that level. I mean, this is why Aidan O'Brien will possibly break so many good horses, because they're only interested in classic winners, top class horses, and the ones that can't hack the high intensity training, the clock watching, lung busting gallops. They're the ones that just, yeah, it's an operation, and that's it. And like you said, King's Best was certainly one of the greatest on his day. Interesting, John. There, topics galore. Shark Hanlon, John. What's happened here? Shark Hanlon, a disgrace. Has he been chucked off or is he suspended?
He's suspended, I think. He was transporting a dead horse, and the tarpaulin came loose. It was an appalling tarpaulin.
It was actually dreadful scenes.
Yeah, well, I think that's it.
Do you think some of these Irish trainers have just got a, and I'm not just saying Ireland, it could be British as well, but a slap happy dead horse? What do you want me to do with it? You know.
Well, the trouble is, I think in Ireland, I think the attitude still prevails that these horses are stock. Yeah. And probably the turf club, as was, have moved on and trying to take a bit more of a, got to be careful how you phrase this, but more in line with the English disciplinary view these days. Whereas some of the trainers are still thinking, well, it's fucking dead. What do you want me to do about it? I have to admit, I have a certain degree of sympathy for Shark Hanlon in this situation because, you know, I would tend to think this is the sort of thing that can happen. At the end of the day, who does it affect that somebody has to step down for however long he's been banned for? I think a stern word would have done myself.
Likes a big breakfast as the shark. Saw him once at the Tat sales, and he was moaning at the quantities of bacon on the plate from the Tats ladies that were serving
I
the
should have done what
breakfast.
the case to be does and just reached over and got some more. No biggie.
I want to know your next question. It was UEFA ban. If we regulate football, racing can learn. What does this mean, John?
The UEFA have threatened to ban England.
Have they?
Premier League are on about bringing this regulation committee in. And the first thing I thought about was gambling commission type thing,
Yeah.
Regulating who can do what, how often you can fast.
The gambling commission, in terms of what's up, this was terrible. Davis has been on, and he said, Chris, I'm bringing you in here. I know you've fallen asleep with all this racing chatter, but
Oh yes, it's very
thoughts on the
dreary.
anti-gambling echo chamber meeting the other week, which of course was very strange. And for listeners that aren't au fait with this, what happened was all the antis sat together, held a discussion on banning gambling adverts, etc., etc. And of course, in attendance at that meeting was Tim Miller of the Gambling Commission, despite Tim Miller refusing to attend. He was invited to the Smart Bash with credible people, Harry Stewart Moore, Brian Chappell, Justice for Punters, to basically discuss the other side of gambling and what harm it might be doing to horse racing and the sport. But they seem to be having no interest whatsoever, Chris, in the other side of the sport, which is kind of bizarre.
Yeah, it is. I mean, their mandate is to kind of regulate a legitimate legal pastime, in a responsible manner. But what they've kind of had mission creep, and what we suspected is coming to pass is that these are prohibitionists, right? So they're not regulators. That they're trying to find ways of effectively eliminating what millions of people have for decades enjoyed doing. And it's quite clear that all the funding is going to these sort of gambling harm groups. It's a kind of a beano for these people, isn't it? You can access EU money at a sort of a swipe of a pen, because the default position, the mindset of these people is gambling. All gambling is bad, and we must stamp it out. And these are the only people that the government and these quangos are prepared to fund. And it's really worrying. And it's a kind of a white middle class thing, isn't it? We know best. We've been to university, you haven't, and we think you're too thick to manage your money properly. So you need people like us to tell you how to live. And everything I see over the last few months sort of endorses that view. These are kind of the people that imposed the lockdowns in COVID, told people to stay at home, and it's an exercise in social engineering, and the direction of travel, trite phrase, is towards eliminating gambling. It's not regulating or managing; it's getting rid of it, and it's very worrying.
To back this up, so since they've brought the single customer view in recently, where what happens is if you deposit a certain amount of money that they deem is unacceptable into your betting account, the bookmakers are allowed to check your credit and credit rating. I've got a couple of bombshells, a Barshas exclusive, if you like, on this week. I'm reliably told, and I know this is 100%, I can't mention names because that's where sources sort of get caught up. But I am told this week that a very, very wealthy gentleman has been banned from all betting sites because he had a CCJ. Incredibly wealthy. When you think about this, 12% of the working population have CCJs. 12%. That's the current figures given to us. If that's the case, then if you've got a CCJ and they check you on a deposit, you're gone. That's it. And you're not just gone with that bookmaker. They then share that information with other bookmakers, and you are then not able to bet with said
There you go.
bookmaker.
That endorses that view, doesn't it? there are ever increasing reasons that are being imposed to stop people having a bet. That was never mooted at the beginning, was it? It wasn't saying that that they're
Nope.
going to be checking CCJs or credit, but this is mission creep. They're throwing these things in because it's a kind of a bloodlust, isn't it? They're becoming emboldened. They're having conferences. That there's people boasting on their I forget the group now. There's a group that's got 1.5 million euros of EU funding to examine gambling harm. All right, but the point is, these people exist only to make money. It doesn't matter if the government said, we think that anyone who eats apples is a bad person. These people would apply for funding to try and research why, to endorse the view that apples are bad for you. It doesn't matter. They're not interested in social harm for gambling. I mean, if they did, they'd regulate the lottery, scratch cards, etc. This is a kind of a bourgeois middle class view that we disapprove of gambling, so you're not going to fucking do it. And we talked about they'll come for other activities like holidays, season tickets. This is the thin end of the wedge that they tried with COVID. They got a lot of data from that, how people react. And now the sort of the globalists are starting to impose an agenda to stop people, doing what they want to do, and so that the state can monitor people's expenditure and limit it only to what the state regards as approved activities. And 5 years ago we'd been sounding like tin hat merchants, but this is very much what it's all about now.
This is kind of why I put the poll up on the thread this morning.
Yep.
Because ITV and the Racing Post are making a great deal of capital out of Sir Keir Starmer and Lady Starmer attending the ledger yesterday.
Yeah.
I would like to point out that they were probably tying their flag to the wrong pole, because the person that they should have been courting was Liz Truss.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, because her plan to deregulate everything, she'd have been very receptive to racing's plight, whereas the Gambling Commission and everything else sits. But probably wasn't in post long enough for anybody to get a phone number. But in an ideal world, racing would have had a much more of a dig at Liz Truss while she was in a position to do something.
Yep.
And there's plenty of those on the right in that party that they should have been courting.
Yep. Yeah, it's a failure. I think you said it, John, yonks ago. It's a failure of leadership. Racing as an industry should hang its head in shame that it's failed to make any inroads into this initiative.
And just out of interest, the poll results were 56.8% for Lady Starmer, 43.2% for Liz Truss.
There you go. There you go. That is how people can be misled. I mean, what they didn't realise is Starmer was there to fucking see how many asylum centres he could build on Doncaster racecourse, how many astronauts and fucking engineers he can put on there. Look, Starmer is a Politburo official. You can imagine him sort of standing there on the May Day parade, saluting the army as it goes by in Red Square. This guy is a humorless bureaucrat. Will only be permitted to engage in activities of which he approves, and ultimately things like drinking, gambling, and enjoying sport, they're not on the agenda. They're going to start looking at season tickets and booze. I'm absolutely sure of it now. Absolutely sure. This is the thin end of the wedge, and racing has lost its opportunity to stand up. Harrington and that bailing out, and all these tossers going to their next jobs. They knew what was coming down the track, and they didn't have the moral fibre to stand up. And everyone else has to suffer. It's appalling, really appalling.
Because these guys don't get employment again after standing up to the establishment or standing up to what is the agenda. They won't get another job, and that's why they're all happy to go along with it, getting the pensions. It's the same thing. Nick Russ was a former bookmaker. Who's Nick Russ working for now? The Gambling Commission.
Correct, exactly right. It's kind of like the old the OxyContin scandal in America, where the Sacklers decided to market a drug, an opioid that they claimed was not addictive, and it resulted in an enormous social crisis in America. Tons of people addicted, who couldn't afford it once their healthcare plans run out, and then they ended up on heroin and and junkies, etc. And the people that approved that drug OxyContin, the the sort of the federal agency that approves drugs, etc., all ended up working for the Sackler family. So, they thought, well, hang on, my career is better served by approving this drug, which is, was launched with very flimsy data. And as soon as the thing was on the market, boom, all these people went on for sort of £1 million jobs with the farm. And it happens all around the world because people are always looking to feather their own nests, aren't they? That's it. Where's my next job move? Well, if I oppose it, I'm not going to get a job in the private sector. So, let's give this a nod and we'll get recruited a year later. And it's always the same. And that's why, the kind of sort of people that regulate sport, generally speaking, have no interest in the underlying product, the sport itself, because they are there just simply to build their CV. They have a 2-year tenure or 3-year. They can write a CV up. Yeah, I piloted the shit, and then they move on to the next thing. And people like Julie Harrington are largely responsible for what's happened. There were innumerable opportunities to stand up to big corp and the government, but it was totally ineffective. And yet they still patted themselves on the back with a fucking, what was it, a poll on online to say, to get a question raised in the House of Commons, which frankly anyone can do. Right, you don't need to be a politician to set up a poll, and that's all they could point to. Well done, racing. It's pathetic.
Well, exclusive number 2 is government are looking to increase taxes on gambling. And this comes from a source that I know is 100%, obviously nameless. And listen to this. The government are perplexed as to why the BHA is silent and is not asking for an exemption or any special treatment.
Well, we're not perplexed, are we? We're not perplexed at all because they're fucking useless. Yeah.
You can't make this up.
Well, there's just a leadership void at the minute, isn't there? Harrington sat there with the trotters up, waiting for them rating the check out, and nobody else gives a shit.
No.
Why is that? Because by rocking the boat, she jeopardizes her, whatever many years left of her career she's got in another cushy sinecure of a job at another quango. If she rocks that boat, she's not going to make the short list of candidates for the next role. So her self-interest, her interests are not served by standing up for. She's already abandoned racing. She may still be in post, but that's a distant memory. She's looking forward to the next gig, so she's going to be spending her time courting people that can employ her in something more lucrative than the BHA. That's what, and it's appalling. At least the fucking Jockey Club, for all their kind of noblesse oblige and all their superiority, at least many of those people had an interest in preserving the sport for future generations because they didn't need the money. They didn't need to get a job, heading some public organisation. They were rich enough already. And yes, they were haughty. Yes, the culture was terrible. It was all very, very much kind of, do as I say, not do as I do. But at least they had the interests of the sport at heart, and these people don't, and that's the problem.
This is going to be a major issue because, of course, if we consider that racing or gambling is to be taxed heavier, that means the bookmakers will be less savvy to give more money to racing, media rights, etc., etc. So all of a sudden, a massive downturn for the industry. How is it that we've foreseen this for the last 3 or 4 years? Like it's all playing out as like a lovely band that's played it out, but yet no one's doing anything.
No, look what happened to greyhound racing. It was a vibrant, really vibrant sport, tracks all around the country. At one point, it was the most kind of sort of frequently attended spectator sport in the country. And now it's on its knees. It is simply a kind of an adjunct. It's just another product that the bookmakers can push to the punters. But it's not a sport in the way that we remember it. It hasn't got any buzz anymore because, greyhound racing also suffered from from people in charge who were just simply motivated by self-interest. What can I get out of it? Yeah, go on, we can sell this track and I'll get a job doing something else. And this is the problem. When you appoint professional bureaucrats to these jobs, people with no innate interest in sport, you just get shit decisions. That's all you get. They roll over all the time because they don't understand the product.
Yeah. PJ Butler, how on earth have they got 4 days out of the Leisure Festival? Ireland this weekend is the standard setter, 2 days and 2 belting cards. PJ, totally agree with you. Less is more, as we've said on the show a lot. 2 questions from Chris Pull before we come to Samuel the Cat to finish the show. Chris Pull, is Kirsten Rousing a bridge too far for John Joe?
Definitely.
Chris, would you kick your family into such for Kirsten and her billions?
Fucking in a heartbeat. Fucking in a heartbeat. All that dough, fucking hell, that would do me, wouldn't you?
Tell friendly amount Prescott.
You don't look at the mantelpiece when you're poking the fire. That's all I say.
I suppose not. I think we need to ask a question of yourself here, Lee, as well.
Yeah,
What's that?
Lee.
Go on.
Regarding your ability or lack of to sit upright at a dining table.
Oh, right. You want this bringing up, dear? No, I was trying to
Go on then.
avoid that.
Go on.
I've beat that. I've done it.
Yeah.
Okay. There were two things that have irked the producer this week. Obviously, it was our 6th wedding anniversary, which happens to be an iron wedding anniversary. So what did she get?
The fucking iron. Oh, you horrible bastard.
It was a witch Best Buy. I mean, what more do you want?
Oh.
It was a witch Best Buy. You cannot beat that. She was quite pleased with
No,
it.
she wasn't. She genuinely wasn't.
It looked like the GT version of irons, like, I must admit.
But then what happened yesterday was quite strange because obviously I can't take my booze. Yesterday was quite weird because it was anniversary day and she was pouring me a celebratory whiskey and then I had gin and lager and then I had some red wine and some rum.
Battery acid,
And it
yeah.
was the concoction of the lot. By the time I'd finished my meal, I didn't feel like drunk or anything, but I went to get up and just literally it was hilarious. I didn't even put my arms out to stop the fall. It was just like a sideways body slam on the floor, much to the mirth of the producer and everyone else. They've all had a laugh out of it, bar me. So it is what it is. And look, that.
Oh,
I'm a
Jesus.
pisshead. Yeah, that's it. The producer's ashamed of me, but then she's always has been ashamed of me.
Well, yeah, no change.
You bought her an iron, mate. You bought her an iron. That's all you got to say. It reminds me of a chap at work. His nan, right, bought him an aluminium deck chair for his Christmas present when he was 9 years old, and his family made him extend it and sit out on the drive and watch all the other kids on their BMXs cycle past because his nan bought him the deck chair, and she'd been upset if he wasn't using it. So, and he was scarred for life from that. He was like 50 years old when he told me that, and it lasted a lifetime. So go out and get something better than an iron for her. Get her something nice.
Yeah.
Come on.
So I have said a present is in. It's her choice after that. How do you think of a fucking iron? What am I supposed to do? Like iron?
There could have been one of them Tom and Jerry moments there, Lee. She'd unwrapped it, got all of the iron, and smacked you in the chops with it. You end up with a face shaped exactly like an iron. Like it used to happen on Tom and Jerry.
To be fair, if me and Jess were in cartoons, that's what she'd like to do. I'm certain of it.
Thomas, yeah, he'd be standing on the chair, yeah.
Yeah, like, bang, have that. There you go. Right, anyway, moving on. Chris Paul's final question. 2 questions for Victor Chandler's man in Gibraltar.
Free advertising. They should cut us a fucking check, shouldn't they?
I know. Paul, send some cash from Victor's vault.
Type bar.
He said here, Worcester Clark, nothing to see here attitude. Instead of trying to do everything to make sure it does not happen again, that's removal apparently of the half furlong pole where poor Elizabeth Gale mistook the winning post. And of course, the BHA, chuck everything at her because it's Elizabeth Gale and it's not Harry Cobden or Pumpkinhead, arguing the case in the steward's room. John, do you think that scenario changes? Right, so Worcester said, no, we're not going to change the fucking thing. But if that had been a more senior racing person that had committed that offence, would that have been changed?
No, I don't think that they changed it anyway. Because they have this very much heads up their own asses sort of attitude, don't they? I mean, what hardship is it to either knock the half furlong pole down or, I don't know, you could wrap it in a pink duvet or something, couldn't you? So, it's not a fucking winning post. I don't know.
A marshmallow man, like Stay Puffed in Ghostbusters, and it just says half.
I don't know why every winning post in the country isn't uniform and draped in high vis.
Yeah, why not?
From like the sideways view. Just because you have to have a jamstick there facing the jockeys, why don't you have like a block of high vis colour to the left of the post?
poor Elizabeth Gale, she's not a bad jockey. I do feel for her. I do. There's some people that have like cast the die out there. Oh, you witch, you've cost me money. But look, she's not a bad jockey, and honestly, I feel for her. I really do. People in a few years will see that Elizabeth Gale, I think, will do quite well in racing.
Whenever that happens, none of them are doing it deliberate, are they?
No, absolutely not.
Because they know they're going to get shit and they're going to get banned, and they're not doing it for that reason.
She'll have gone on that night and she'd probably get whipped and pissed on by relatives.
She's probably hit somebody with an iron when she's got home.
Yeah. That's me. Oh dear. Final question. Samuel the Cat. Finish the show in style. 2025. York have a celebrity race day. That sounds good, that. That sounds good to start with. Yeah. But I think Samuel the Cat wants us all dead because he says, but sadly, an unexpected earthquake occurs. Fucking hell. So we're all fucked, right? Me and you, we've got a bottle of fizz. Next minute, we're underground. Under the rubble, you end up in a room with numerous people with food and stuff to last you 2 months. Why 2 months? Where's this appeared from, this food from? I think he shipped it in. I think he's one of them, create them cabins in Russia.
Yeah.
Where they film it. You know what I'm on about here? It's like they film them like survival, then they just kill them. I think Samuel the Cat's one of them. Because he wants us to sit in a room with racing or celeb people. Anybody. Who would you be happy to stay with? And who would be pure hell to stay with? Samuel, I think John's probably answered this before, but I'll ask him again.
Well, I think if it was a celebrity day, I would hope that Carol Kirkwood, BBC weatherwoman, has made it, because she always seems to have a really sunny disposition and she'd help me through it. Those I wouldn't want to be with would be a certain spitting out bastard that would be spending 2 months telling us all what you can do without.
You'd have to wipe his arse.
How easy it is to manage. So, mind you, I think anybody in racing, really, 2 months would be 2 months too long with any of them, to be honest. I think if I thought there was going to be an earthquake, I'd have to take a revolver with me racing ready to stick in my own mouth.
You'd hope that the Minogue sisters had booked a UK tour and had just stopped off at York for that particular day, John.
I am nowhere near that lucky, like.
Yeah, they've been room next door and you can't get through.
Yeah, blocked by all the rubble. Yeah.
And then word would get past me that they were both unconscious just to rub it in.
They'd be with Matt Chapman and David Easterby, and that'll do you in.
Yeah.
Anything to add to that, Chris?
Oh, well, my initial response was Leona Mayer and Kate Tracy, but I thought that was very juvenile. And so, I think because of my love of money, I think Patrick Veach and JP McManus would be my two people. And I'd be like Dracula. I'd suck all the blood out of them, everything. They'd be pleading with me to leave them alone because I'll be pumping them for info. So they'll be my two. And frankly, in terms of who I wouldn't want to spend time with, I mean, look, there's just so many people. Practically everyone else, I would say, would be. I wouldn't want to stay with them,
including me and John.
Oh, you fucking! I'll be trying to chuck fucking rocks on you, fucking iron you both out. But yeah, maybe a mixture. Maybe Patrick Veach and Kate Tracy, and that's going to probably get me on Racing Creeps, isn't it, the audio version? But that would be my two, and I'd be asking Kate Tracy for tips, and I'll be fucking Patrick Veach. That's how stupid I am. You fucking idiot! It's the other way around. All right, when they rescue me, yeah, typical.
And on that note, that's all from us now. I think that's enough for this show.
Yes.
I hope you've enjoyed it. We're back, of course, next Sunday, talking the absolute rubbish that we come out on this week. We'll double it next week with more rubbish. That's all from us. Bye for now.